All right, let's talk Los Angeles Rams. It has, of course, been an eventful offseason for the Rams, not with a lot of big time media headlines, but a lot of solid moves across the board, a lot of great additions. And now that we're in the thick of training camp, we're starting to see some of those moves really play out as this Rams team looks to take the next step in 2025. And there's one rookie, one new addition that's somehow sliding under the radar. He's underrated in terms of a national perspective, but he's going to be a superstar and he's a great fit for the Rams. We'll break down what he's doing and the data behind it in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Los Angeles Rams added a lot of great rookies, whether it was the top of the class or undrafted free agents. We've covered pretty much all of them as we get ready for the regular season. But there's one guy, Jarquz Hunter, running back out of Auburn, 4th-round selection, that is absolutely dominating training camp right now. I know it's early, but he's off to a phenomenal start. Let's pull up the reports, then we'll get into some very interesting data involving Hunter on the other side. The first report is courtesy of SI.com. At training camp, I stood on the sidelines in shock once Hunter took the field in team drills. He attempted to run through the entire defense with Captain Quentin Lake having to corral him by the neck to stop him. On every rep, he's trying to run through people. Now, he doesn't do this with reckless abandon as he clearly operates with his teammates' safety in mind. However, the Rams don't have pads on, but he keeps turning his feet and runs farther after the play than anyone else. Wherever there's an opportunity to put in work, Hunter gets it done. All right, we're talking about tenacity, we're talking about effort, we're talking about finish, we're talking about breaking tackles. It's all obviously a big part of being the running back for any football team, and certainly in a downhill rushing attack like the Rams are trying to implement as part of Sean McVay's scheme. Hunter off to a great start there, but it's not just his physicality and his effort that's popping out to the media. It's also other attributes as well. Let's pull up our second report here on the screen. You can see it there. It's a post courtesy of Adam Grossbard. Good second day of practice for Blake Corum, even for touch, he was making guys miss with his cuts. Here's the second half is what's really important. And you can really see Jarquz Hunter's speed on the field. Bounced one run outside and was off for a 20-yard gain. So we now have multiple reports highlighting good things Hunter is doing, but it's multiple different attributes. We've got tenacity, physical nature, running to run through the entire defense, paired also with speed and breakaway ability. That's obviously a very good combination and a very good start to training camp for Jarquz Hunter. But when we look at Hunter, look at the impact you could have for the Rams, obviously with his tenacity and physical style, breakaway speed, all of that together will be valuable. But what he did in college, actually, when you look at the numbers and break down the stats, is exactly what the Rams need. Hunter is a perfect fit. So let's go through the data. We got kind of two charts to highlight what I'm talking about here. So the first chart is 10+ yard runs per attempt percentage, right? This is a percentage of your runs according to PFF that ended up being 10+% or 10 yards more, 10 plus yards, 10 or more yards. And we've got a lot of the top running backs here. We've got, of course, Ashton Ginty. We've got Amarian Hampton, 2 first-round picks, Quinshon Judkins, who was a second-round selection, and finally Jarquz Hunter, who, of course, was selected in the 4th round. And you can see Ginty, Hampton, Judkins, all really good players, phenomenal players. Ginty went to the Heisman Trophy, was the Heisman Trophy finalist. A lot of people think he should have won. He averaged about 16% of his runs were 10+ yards. Hampton about the same. Quinshon Judkins a little less than 15. How about Jarquz Hunter? 22% of his runs went for 10+ yards or more. That is absolutely bonkers. You can see just based on the visual aspect of the chart, he separated himself from the pack when it comes to these guys. So 10+ yard runs, he's better than all of these guys by far. Now, why does this matter? Why did I pick this sort of, I'll say, random statistic? It's a good stat to have, but what makes this so important is that this is exactly what the Rams were lacking last season. Let's go into our next chart here, courtesy of True Media. And this is taking a look at, on the y-axis, your rushes that you had of 10+ more yards, and on the x-axis, your number of rushes over the course of the season. So you can see the Rams, and I kind of circled it with a blue arrow at the bottom there to kind of highlight it for you guys. The Rams had one of the fewest 10+ yard rushes across the entire NFL, and they were about average in terms of rushing attempts throughout the entire NFL, right around 450, which is right around middle of the pack. So you could see the Rams, you see that diagonal in the middle of the screen, that's the trend line. That's what you would expect. And the intersection right there with the horizontal and vertical, right around where the Tennessee Titans logo is, that is the average, the midpoint. So you can see the Rams are average in terms of rushing attempts per over the course of the season, but they're well below the average in 10+ more yards, right? So again, Hunter's attributes immediately address a weakness. In fact, to demonstrate this, let's go ahead and go to our next chart. What I'm talking about here, you can see it with the arrow and the black letters at the top, the potential Hunter effect. Adding Travis Hunter Two, now adding his production from college, so it's not apples to apples, of course, but just the potential Hunter effect moves the Rams. Remember, you can still see where their logo is on the bottom there, all the way up the axis, all the way up to the top right there, with the Eagles and the Ravens, the two best rushing teams in football. That's the potential Hunter effect. Again, talking about his 10-plus yard impact. The Rams go from being one of the worst in terms of getting 10-plus yard runs to being one of the best. Now, will Hunter have the same impact in the NFL as he did in the SEC? Probably not, just to be totally realistic. But will he have somewhere along the line? I think there's a good chance, right? Will he get all the way up to, will he push the Rams all the way up to, say, Philadelphia level? Maybe, maybe not, but will he get him closer to maybe Detroit, Green Bay level? I think so, right? And this is the impact he could have. There's a chance he pushes it all the way up to that level. I wouldn't bet my house on it, I'll say that. But he will definitely improve this aspect of this Rams offense, and this was a missing component last year for Los Angeles. They were not a bad rushing team. They were relatively effective, but they didn't have enough of those 10 to 15-yard runs, those pops that make drives easier, to take the load off of Matthew Stafford, take the load off of Puka Nacua, take the load off of these young playmakers that they're trying to integrate in their offense now, such as rookie tight end Terrence Ferguson going forward. I think we look at a guy here in Jarquz Hunter that is going to be an immediate positive, massive upgrade for this Rams offense. This was a key weakness for the Rams that a lot of people didn't focus on, but I think he's going to slide in day one and really solve this problem for Los Angeles. He's an underrated guy. I know a lot of people look at the Rams and all the steals they've got, whether you've got Poot Paul, whether you've got Sean Dolak, right? We've covered a lot of them, of course. You can go down the list, right? Of course, the center out of North Carolina is one of the guys we talked about before. It's going to be a phenomenal player, but really underrated guy. The Rams crushed it in terms of finding value through the draft, but once again, they just seem to do it under the radar. And Jarquz Hunter's ability to step in and fix an immediate need for Los Angeles should not be undersold. This was a great find by LA, and the fact that he's off to a good start is proof that he will very quickly step in and address this issue for the Rams offense. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Rams fans, the Ramley, if you will, in the comment section below. We're talking about, kind of under the radar issues when it comes to the Rams, 10-plus yard runs. So let me ask you this. What's sort of an, kind of under the radar or underrated problem the Rams had last year or overall in years past that you really hope they can address this coming season? Maybe it's 10-plus yard runs. Maybe it's tackling in the secondary. Maybe it's tackling in the kicking game. Whatever it may be, right? What's the sort of issue that isn't really covered in the national media that you really want the Rams to solve? Let us know in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure you sign up for our weekly newsletter, courtesy of the Substack platform. 100% free, doesn't cost you anything. It's just extra content, extra information for you all across the board. So make sure you check it out. Again, link in the description box below. But Mize, enough from me. Over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest out of LA?
Yeah, Nick, I think when you look at the Rams and you ask the question, what do they need to improve on? I think what you're talking about here, potentially the Jarquz Hunter effect, is exactly what they've needed to improve on. Because if you look at this team on paper, if you look at the macro, the big picture here, this is a really good offense. This offense was 9th overall in the NFL per PFF as far as their total offensive grade was last year. Really, really good stuff by them. 79.9 overall grade. That's 9th in the NFL. When you look at their receiving grade, even better. This was the top 3 receiving team in the country. 84.8. But when you go to look at their rushing grade, that's where things fall off of a cliff. This was the 22nd best rushing team in the NFL. Not very good. So this, passing receiving game is heavily carrying this offense as far as getting them in that top 10 area. So I think if a guy like Jarquz Hunter can come in with his explosiveness, and you got to love it, both tenacity, his explosiveness for big runs, but his potential to be a hard runner to want to run through guys as well. I think that's the perfect complement to bring in at the running back position for this Rams team as far as to boost them up. And I think it's going to make a big, big impact. You look at the chart, you see where they're at, that brings them up in the top 2-3 teams in the NFL as far as rushing with the Jarquz Hunter effect. I think that boosts them from number 9 up into the top 2-3 teams offensively in the NFL as well. Because, like I said, receiving, this team is really, really good. Phenomenal. I think it's just going to get better with the addition of a great running back who can really open up their rushing tackle a little bit more. I think the offense is very good, but I think you add in a running back like Jarquz Hunter, what he's able to bring to this team, it's going to elevate it. Because 22nd, that ain't cutting. That's not Super Bowl level rushing attack. Because we all know when the playoffs roll around, being a great receiving team, being a great passing team is very nice. But you got to have a good defense, and you got to have a good running game. Those are things that can help carry you through the playoffs. We saw what the Eagles did. They had both of those things. Boom. They win the Super Bowl. Now we look at this team in the Rams. Defense, it's good. It's middle of the road. But again, something that I think can help them out. A good rushing attack, kind of prolonged drives, keep things going. Going to help the defense tremendously as well. I think overall, everything we're seeing out of the Rams here is showing they're improving in all of the right spots. I think the addition of Jarquz Hunter could be huge for this Rams team, and I'm really excited to see what he does here in training camp and the preseason early on.
Yeah, you talk about complementary football a little bit, rushing attack, helping the defense. I do think you bring up an important point because the strength of the Rams defense, certainly last season, and it's going to be this season based on their personnel, is, of course, up front, getting after the passer. You look at Turner, Verse, Fisk. They added Stewart, Young, who I mentioned. I mean, that's a terrifying front four, front seven for opposing offenses. But if you can't run the football effectively, if teams are able to, get a lot of passing plays in, throw the ball 60, 70 times, or run the ball on the Rams defense, you kind of exhaust that front seven. One of the things that can help with that is if your offense can run the football, lower the possession count, control the game a little bit, control the flow, get that time of possession up, right? People don't like to talk about time of possession. It's kind of fallen out of vogue, but the reality is if you can control that flow, it will force the opposing team to play into your hand a little bit. If you remove the opportunities for the opposing offense, let's say they normally get 12 offensive possessions per game, but because you run the football well, they only get 10. Suddenly they have to be a little bit more aggressive. They can't run their game plan. They don't have to. They can't be patient, right? And that allows your front four, your front seven to pin their ears back and be aggressive. And that's how you get complementary effects. That's how you get, like we saw with Philadelphia, a great point. That's how you get teams that are really good teams, like, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They just fall apart because the Eagles slowly controlled the game. They forced the Chiefs to play outside themselves, and then it allowed the Eagles to play to their strengths, and then the wheels just fell off, and they obviously dominated that football game. The Rams, with a better running game, will have that same kind of effect where they're going to build leads and then slowly milk the game away and add to the lead, force teams to get into a passing game, force teams to get away from their game plan, which allows guys like Verse, like Fisk, like Young, like Stewart, the rest of the crew here, Kobe Turner, to absolutely dominate and do what they do best to get after the quarterback. So not just from an offensive improvement perspective, like the charts and data indicate, from a team overall strategic perspective, Jarquz Hunter will have a massive impact. Like we said in the report, he's off to a great start. He's definitely a guy to keep an eye on the rest of camp in the preseason.